So, did early humans invent music? It feels like a simple question, but the answer is tangled. It's not something we can just look up. Music doesn't fossilize a song, a rhythm, a chant. It all disappears into the air. We can't dig up a melody. What we're left with are clues. We have to be detectives looking at old bones, strange rocks, and the very shape of our own bodies. We have to ask different questions. Not just did they have music, but could they have music? And if they could, why would they? Let's get one thing straight first. When we say music, we're not talking about a symphony orchestra. We're not even necessarily talking about a guitar around a campfire. We have to think simpler. Much simpler. Music, at its core, is organized sound. It's sound with a purpose. It has rhythm, it might have pitch. It's different from just random noise. A branch cracking in the forest is noise. Someone deliberately snapping branches in a steady beat, that's getting close to music. It's about intention. Someone wanted to make that sound in that way at that time. That's the foundation we have to build on. The first instrument wasn't made of bone or wood. It was the human body itself. It's the instrument we're all born with. Think about it. We can clap our hands, we can stomp our feet, we can slap our chests. These are all forms of percussion. They create rhythm, and rhythm is the backbone of music. It's the most fundamental part. It's easy to imagine a group of our ancient ancestors sitting around a fire. Maybe they just finished a successful hunt. The energy is high. Someone starts clapping a beat. Another joins in, stomping their feet. Soon, you have a group of people all locked into the same rhythm. They are connected. They are communicating, not with words, but with sound. This isn't a huge leap of faith. We see primates do similar things. Gorillas beat their chests in powerful displays. Chimpanzees will drum on tree roots. It's not a symphony, but it's intentional, rhythmic sound. It's a way to show emotion, to communicate power, to connect with the group. If our primate cousins do it, it's almost certain our human ancestors did too. This kind of music requires no tools, it requires no special genius, it just requires a body and a social group. It was probably the first music ever made. But what about melody? What about singing? For that, we need to look at the voice. Our ability to speak is incredible. And the very same tools we use for speech are the ones we use for singing. It all comes down to anatomy. Our voice box, or larynx, is positioned lower in our throat compared to other primates. This creates a larger resonating chamber, the pharynx, above our vocal cords. This setup gives us incredible control over the sounds we make. We can create a huge variety of vowels and consonants. We can also control the pitch of our voice with amazing precision. We can go high, we can go low. We can hold a note. In other words, we can sing. So the question becomes, when did we get this ability? The evidence for that is in the bones. One tiny bone in particular is very important. It's called the hyoid bone. It's a U-shaped bone in the neck that supports the tongue and the larynx. It doesn't connect to any other bone. It's held in place by muscles and ligaments. Because it's so central to the structure of our vocal anatomy, its shape and position can tell us a lot about what an ancient creature's voice might have been like. For a long time, we didn't have any ancient hyoid bones. They are small and fragile and rarely preserved. But then we found some. In a cave in Israel, scientists found a Neanderthal skeleton, about 60,000 years old. And it had its hyoid bone. When they studied it, they found it was basically identical to our own. This was a huge discovery. It strongly suggests that Neanderthals had a vocal anatomy very similar to ours. They could have produced a wide range of sounds, they could have spoken, and if they could speak, they could almost certainly sing. The same goes for an even earlier human ancestor, Homo heidelbergensis. We found hyoid bones from them dating back over 500,000 years that also look very modern. This means that the physical ability to sing isn't just a recent thing for Homo sapiens. It's an ancient capacity stretching back hundreds of thousands of years, shared with our close evolutionary cousins. Singing might be one of the oldest human behaviors of all. Before we had complex language with grammar and syntax, we might have had a kind of musical communication. Think of a mother soothing a baby. She doesn't use complex sentences. She uses cooing sounds, soft melodies, a rhythmic rocking. It's a language of emotion carried by pitch and rhythm. This musolanguage, as some scientists call it, might be the common ancestor of both music and speech. It's a way of bonding, of communicating safety, love, and comfort without needing a single word. It's easy to see how this would have been a huge evolutionary advantage. A mother who could soothe her infant and keep it quiet would be less likely to attract predators. An infant who felt secure would be healthier. This mother-infant bond, strengthened by musical sounds, is a powerful force for survival. So we have the body, we have the voice. That's a lot right there. It tells us that the potential for music is ancient. But what about instruments? What about things people made to create music? This is where the evidence gets both exciting and controversial. The most famous artifact is a chunk of bone found in a cave in Slovenia called Divje Babe. It's a piece of a young cave bear's femur, and it has holes in it. It's about 60,000 years old, which means if it's an instrument, it was made by Neanderthals. When you look at it, it looks a lot like a flute. There are two complete holes in what look like parts of two other holes at the broken ends. The spacing seems deliberate. Some researchers have even made replicas of it and shown that you can play music on them. They can produce different notes. To them, this is the world's oldest musical instrument. It's a sign that Neanderthals didn't just have the capacity for music, but they had the culture and the intelligence to create tools for making it. It would mean they had an artistic life, a world of sound they created for themselves. But there's another side to the story. Other scientists are not so sure. They look at the same piece of bone and see something different. They see the work of an animal, not a person. They argue that the holes were made by a hyena or another carnivore biting down on the bone. The punctures, they say, are consistent with bite marks. The spacing might just be a coincidence. A hungry animal was trying to get at the marrow inside the bone, and it left these holes behind. They point out that there are no other tool marks on the bone, no little scratches to show someone was carefully carving or drilling. The debate has been going on for years. Both sides have strong arguments. Was it a Neanderthal flute, a window into a lost world of ancient music? Or was it just a bear's bone, gnawed by a hyena, a random accident of nature? Well, we may never know for sure. The bone is a kind of Rorschach test for archaeologists. So what you see in it depends on what you're looking for, but it raises a powerful possibility. The fact that we can even have this debate is amazing. The fact that a Neanderthal origin for music is a serious scientific possibility tells you how deep these roots might go. Even if the Divje Babe flute isn't a flute, we do have other, more certain examples. They just come much later. In caves in Germany, archaeologists have found flutes made from bird bone and mammoth ivory. These are incredible. They are beautifully made. The holes are perfectly carved. There's no doubt about what they are, and they are very old, dating back to around 40,000 years ago. These were made by our own species, Homo sapiens, shortly after they arrived in Europe. These flutes show a sophisticated musical tradition. To make a flute like this, you need a plan. You need to understand acoustics. You need to know how the spacing of the holes will change the pitch of the notes. This wasn't something someone just figured out overnight. It suggests a long history of experimentation, a tradition of instrument making that was passed down through generations. These flutes might be the oldest confirmed instruments, but they were probably not the first. They are likely the descendants of simpler instruments made of wood or reeds that have long since rotted away. And there are other things besides flutes. Archaeologists have found what they call lithophones. Litho means stone and phone means sound. These are rocks that ring with a clear, musical tone when you strike them. In some ancient sites, it looks like people collected these ringing rocks. They found stones that had been hit over and over again in just the right spot to produce a good sound. Were these rock gongs the world's first xylophones? It's possible. Another potential instrument is the bull roarer. A bull roarer is a simple but amazing device. It's a flat piece of wood or bone tied to a long cord. You swing it around your head, and it makes a low, vibrating, humming sound. The sound is eerie and can travel for long distances. We've found objects from the Paleolithic era that look very much like bull roarers. They are the right shape and they have a hole in one end for a cord. We can't know for sure if that's how they were used. They could have been something else entirely, but when you swing a replica, the sound it makes feels ancient and powerful. It's easy to imagine it being used in a ritual or a ceremony. This brings us to a bigger question. Why? Why would early humans bother with music at all? Life was hard. You had to worry about finding food, staying warm, and not getting eaten by a lion. Music doesn't fill your stomach, it doesn't keep you warm, so why would it be so important? It must have done something useful. Evolution doesn't usually hang on to things that are just for fun. There must have been a purpose. Scientists have a few big ideas about this. One of the main ones is social bonding. Humans are social creatures. We survive because we work together. A lone human was a dead human. We needed to cooperate to hunt large animals, to defend against predators, and to raise our very helpless children. Music is one of the most powerful ways to bring a group of people together. Think about it. When a group of people sings together or drums together, they have to synchronize. They have to listen to each other, they have to move together, their heartbeats can even start to align. This shared experience creates a powerful sense of unity, of us. It breaks down barriers between individuals and makes them feel like part of a whole. This group cohesion was a massive survival advantage. A tightly bonded group is a group that can count on each other when things get tough. Music was social glue. Another idea, which we touched on earlier, is the link to language. Maybe music and language grew from the same root. Before we had words for land or water, we had sounds. We had calls. A sharp, high-pitched cry could mean danger. A low, rhythmic chant could mean it's safe. The emotional contours of music, happy, sad, tense, calm, could have been our first complex communication system. As our brains grew, this system might have split into two paths. One path became language, great for conveying specific information. The other became music, great for conveying emotion and building social bonds. They still share a lot. Both have rhythm, pitch, and structure. The parts of the brain that process music and language overlap a lot. So maybe music wasn't just a fun add-on. Maybe it was an essential step on the road to becoming the talking, thinking creatures we are today. Then there's the idea of sexual selection. This was Charles Darwin's thought. He compared it to the beautiful feathers of a peacock. A peacock's tail is a huge burden. It's heavy, it makes it hard to fly, and it makes it an easy target for predators. So why have it? Because it signals fitness to potential mates. A peacock that can survive despite having this huge, inconvenient tail must be very strong and healthy. It's an honest signal of quality. Music could be a human version of the peacock's tail. To be a good musician requires a lot of things. It requires a good memory to remember melodies. It requires fine motor control to play an instrument or sing accurately. It requires creativity. It requires a healthy body to produce a strong sound. A good singer or drummer was effectively advertising their excellent brain and healthy body to potential partners. It was a way of saying, I have good genes, I am clever and coordinated, I would be a good parent. It might sound a bit cold, but it could be one of the powerful evolutionary forces that pushed music forward. Music also could have played a role in healing and ritual. In many traditional cultures today, music is central to religious ceremonies and healing practices. The shaman or healer often uses chants and drumming to enter a trance-like state, to communicate with spirits, or to drive out illness. We have some clues that this might be a very old practice. Some of the most famous Paleolithic cave paintings are found deep inside the earth, in places that are very hard to get to. And many of these painted chambers have amazing acoustics. If you clap or sing in these places, the sound echoes and resonates in powerful ways. Were our ancestors going into these deep, dark, resonant caves to chant, to drum, to connect with a spiritual world? Did they use the power of sound, combined with a flickering firelight and the incredible images on the walls, to create powerful, transformative rituals? It seems very likely. Like in these sacred spaces, music wouldn't have been entertainment. It would have been a technology for changing consciousness, for connecting with the group, and for making sense of a mysterious world. So, to go back to the original question, did early humans invent music? The answer seems to be a resounding yes. But they probably didn't invent it in the way we invent a smartphone. It wasn't a single event. It wasn't one person hitting two rocks together and saying, aha, music. It was a slow, gradual process that likely began before we were even Homo sapiens. It started with the music of the body, with clapping and stomping, with the rhythmic sounds of life and work. It grew with the evolution of our vocal tract, which gave us the ability to sing. The first songs were likely lullabies, a mother soothing sounds to her child. They were the calls of the group, communicating emotions of joy, fear, or sadness. It was a language before language. Then, at some point, we started using tools. We picked up a hollow log and beat on it. We found a rock that made a beautiful sound. We blew across the top of a broken reed and heard a whistle, and maybe, just maybe, a Neanderthal 60,000 years ago carved holes in a bare bone to create the world's first flute. The timeline is fuzzy. The first steps are lost to time. But by 40,000 years ago, with the arrival of modern humans in Europe, the evidence becomes undeniable. We have finally crafted flutes that can still be played today. We can hear the notes that our ancestors heard echoing from the Ice Age. These instruments tell us that music was already a deep and important part of their lives. It was part of their culture, their rituals, their social gatherings. Music wasn't a luxury. It was a core part of the human toolkit for survival. It helped us bond together in groups. It helped mothers raise their children. It helped us communicate and understand each other. It may have helped us attract mates, and it gave us a way to connect with the spiritual, to find meaning and beauty in a harsh world. It's not something we added on after we had everything else figured out. It was there from the beginning, intertwined with language, with art, with religion. It was one of the things that made us human in the first place. The beat of the drum is like the beat of the heart. The rise and fall of a melody is like the rise and fall of the breath. Music is not just something we do. In a very real way, it's a part of who we are. Its roots are as deep and as old as humanity itself.